So I know I talk a lot, but when you're putting these boots on, the best thing you can do is to lube up the lip up here where the boot's gonna rest. Put some of this silicone lubricant, so silicone grease. It's usually your brake lubricant, but put some of that on the lip there, and make sure you don't miss the front edge where the boot's gonna go on from, because it'll help you get it on there a lot easier, and it'll help seal out moisture. And also over here, where was it? Right there. I put some in that little lip there, and that way it kind of pulled it in and got it all over the inside of the boot there too. Same thing, that's gonna keep any water out. And you know, this part of the shaft where it's gonna be greased up, just wipe that off with the rag. Okay, one thing to add, the reason silicone grease is that silicone grease is safe on the rubber. You can use lithium grease too, but it's not as good on the rubber, and you definitely don't want to use anything that's petroleum based, like your oh gosh, most of your regular greases are going to be petroleum based. You don't want to use those because that's going to eat up the rubber. So don't use that on bushings or boots. Okay, so to start off, I thought of something that would have been smarter when I was doing the rack and pinion. I did end up using that pipe wrench on the case, but if I had bolted it back to the subframe, I would not have needed to do that. So next time. Got a lot of stuff painted. I just cleaned up the exhaust and painted it. Came out pretty good, I think. And I went ahead and painted the which ones? The flange surfaces that were like this with the graphite gasket I painted because, well, on this new pipe they were already painted, but I did not paint the gaskets that were like this. It's a different type of gasket, I believe, so I didn't want to take a chance of messing that up. Although, looks like they might have. No, I don't think they painted the inside. Looks pretty good, but out here is definitely painted. But I'm going to paint up the calipers too. Just I got to do some masking because they're still on the car. Okay, so I forgot to show you what I used for this. I did end up painting the inside of this heat shield here. Didn't do too good there, but the ceramic coating, Rust-Oleum high heat, it works pretty good. So up to 2,000 degrees. And then I have this, I think I showed you this, but this is the 2-in-1 rust, reform, and seal that you can put over stuff that's a little rusty. Still got to clean it up, but this is what I'm going to use underneath. I'm going to spray it on any spots under the body there. I wish I'd ordered a couple more cans because I'd really like to just do the whole body underneath, but you know, I'll do what I can. Okay, so also on this, if you want the stuff to stick, your prep work is the most important thing. Make sure you scrub it down real good, and you want to like scuff up the entire surface basically so the paint has something to stick to. If it's real smooth, then the paint's not going to stick. So sandpaper on all the big parts, and for all the crevices and wherever you can't get with the sandpaper, use like a wire brush. Just scrub it up as best you can. And I have been definitely using my wire brush a lot. This is how it looks now. So it's about time for a new one. I'm back. Okay, so I crawled up underneath and found a lot of rust up underneath. I cleaned up the spots as best I could, and used some of that rust reform paint. It seemed like I did pretty good. I got the rear subframe cross member, and as much as I could find little spots on the body, I just kind of did some quick shots because I was running out of paint. And I scrubbed up this caliper. The calipers are really rough. This one took me a while to clean, but I masked it off too. You want to make sure you get the bleeder screw for sure, and the brake line, the attachment, I wrapped underneath there all over so that it's really well protected. And then the what's it called? The piston, sorry. The piston and the boot of it, of course. And then the opposite side, I just taped all the way across the whole part because, you know, that's not even going to be visible anyway, so that'll be unpainted there. And I tried something that I came up with. I don't know if it'll actually work. I'm hoping it will. But I put grease around the holes of the bolts so that when I paint this, I'll paint it, and then after it dries, hopefully I can just wipe off the grease and the paint that's on top of the grease will come right with it. At least that's the hope. So fingers crossed, and I'll let you know how it works. Okay, so everything is super red. It now matches my transmission jack, which is my table. So I got 3 more to go around and do, but my little trick with the grease works. It pulls right off. I'm going to let it dry some more because it's kind of wanting to peel the paint next to it off. So I think once it dries, it'll be a lot better. But looks good. The only thing is when you're masking, make sure you mask your brake line further than you think you need to, or you'll do what I did. So now I have some red brake line. Oops. So I'm going to jump around here. I did underneath here spray, like I said. I was able to get pretty much the entire subframe a coat. Not the best coat, but it does look a lot better than it did. It was really rusty. And obviously up on the body you can see the little spots that I squirted. Those I had to brush all those. I'd really like to do these heat shields, but like this one in particular has rivets, so I'll have to take those rivets out and then re-rivet it back in. But I want to get up there. It looks like there's some rust above it there, and even on the other side there's some spots I missed. So I will end up getting back under here, and I got some challenges, like those bolts look like they'll be fun to take out. So I'll be back under here for you guys. And I don't know, I did a lot of areas under there. Basically anything that I saw, I started at the front and worked towards the back, and that's, you know, probably why I missed those spots, is that I just ran out of paint. I did get all the hangers and their brackets. Those were real rusty too. The biggest thing is prep work. Make sure you brush it really good. You get all the surface off and then clean it real good. I cleaned all the stuff with brake parts cleaner. It evaporates real clean, and everything looks like it's sticking really well. So let me jump over here real quick. Okay, so the exhaust, I did paint up all the exhaust. That looks like it came out really good. It's a ceramic coating, so you can actually see through it. So if you have anything on your exhaust, like imperfections, you might want to think about some kind of a primer. But like on here, there is, I don't know if you can see it, but there is a label on here, right across here. I actually left it taped over at first so that you could see it. See if I can get the right angle. But you could, yeah, there you go. You could see the label on the other side even with the coating on it, so I decided I'd just coat this side as well. But you can see, you can completely clearly see it. So I imagine if you had any discoloration on the exhaust, that would kind of come through too. But yeah, I like it. And the calipers brackets are done there, and I've done the front 2 calipers, and I think they came out really good. Still got to take the tape off of this one and get around those bolt holes, but I'm just hanging them to dry. My transmission jack works great. I just set it up here, put a board to block the overspray. And then the good thing about the transmission jack is you can spin it around so you can get the other side without actually moving the part or the caliper. But I like it. I think the color is going to really pop, And this is my first time ever doing anything like this, and I think it's coming out real good. The prep work, like I said, is the most important part, and I think this is going to last a long time. And don't be afraid to try new things. You know, there's a lot of videos out there that teach you stuff, and watch some videos. You know, maybe the first one might not be the best, so watch a couple, you know, see what you think. You can do a lot more than you think you can. So that one's done. And then over here, this one's all done. There's a spot there on the side that from where it was sitting, where the paint came off, but I'm not too worried about that little tiny spot. And then this is what they look like initially. This one's actually better than the front were. The front had a lot more brake dust, but the rest, same thing. And this will clean up real good, get kind of a shine to it. But yeah, there's the brake dust on the inside. That's how the front ones were all over. So I'm going to pull off those boots, mask everything up, and then get these back two done. And then I'll start putting things together, put the rack and pinion on the subframe, and I'm going to try and kind of go in the same order that we took everything out, because you know, sorry if you're doing just a little job and you're watching this, but I don't want to make it too confusing for anybody who's actually going through all this insane process. I want to make it so that it's simple for them to get everything back together and in the same order, so that it's not too confusing. A couple of things I forgot to mention before. When you're doing the brakes, make sure you clean it off real good with brake parts cleaner, and even throughout, when you're scrubbing, brake parts cleaner will help get it clean a lot faster. And when you're underneath and you're doing the heat shields, if you want to like paint your heat shields, make sure you do it in the exhaust paint, that ceramic coating, not just the regular paint. I'm hoping the exhaust hangers will be okay, because I did put the rust reform and seal paint on there, which isn't rated for that heat, but I'm hoping because it's just that little tiny bit, it should be okay. But you know, if I need to, I'll go under there and sand it and repaint it with the ceramic coating. But on my heat shield, I did have here, what happened is some I think it's called galvanic corrosion, but basically because of the two dissimilar metals of the body and the nut and the heat shield, the aluminum actually corroded around the bolt hole, and the piece of aluminum was underneath the nut, but all around it was just like little shreds holding it together. Now, I watched a YouTube video, and this was really awesome. A guy showed me how to fix this, and that's you take some galvanized pipe strap like this. I painted this up, but it's basically just a little strap here, and you put it right across it, and then put your nut on, and then it holds it in place. So I thought that was real cool. I wanted to share. So it's a bit like a leopard under here. Got a lot of little squirt places, but that was where the rust was at, so I scrubbed it real good and got it coated, so hopefully that'll be protected. When you are underneath scrubbing, make sure you're wearing eye protection. That rust will definitely get in your eyes, and a little tiny speck of paint, if you're under there painting, getting in your eye, it really hurts, trust me. So I also did something else here. I am replacing the high pressure lines to the rack and pinion that connect to the power steering pump up there, and there was one bracket up there that I had a real tough time getting the bolt. Of course, it was rusted too, and I did get that out, and I'll be able to get the new one in there too. And I think that's it for now. Okay, so here's what it looks like when it's cleaned up. I know it still has that deep rust to it, but the surface rust is all gone, and no brake dust, and the surface is all pretty well scuffed up, so the paint's going to stick to it. So I'm going to mask this off and then go ahead and get this painted and then get on to the next side. and then more fun. So back underneath here, I went ahead and I pulled back down this heat shield, and one by one I disconnected the bolts that are holding the e-brake cables up underneath there, and also down by that plate there on both sides. And what I did is I put nickel anti-seize on them. Nickel anti-seize is really good for places that get super hot, so that's why I chose that for there. Just when you're using it, make sure you don't get it on your skin because it is carcinogenic. But I also put up my exhaust hangers, and you can see they're super greasy. I put a lot of grease on them because they're already deteriorating a little bit, and that'll keep them good for a while longer. I did finish up all the calipers. You can see one back through there. They're not perfect, you know, like they've got some little blemishes from where I set them when they were drying, but I'm really happy with the way they came out, and I really like it. I'm gonna work on putting this heat shield back up in here. I'm gonna use the anti-seize on that one too, and then I'm also working on the front subframe. I got working on the lower control arms, putting them in there, and then I'm gonna mount the rack and pinion on it, and then after that the rear engine mount. So more of a close-up of how they came out. I think they look really good. They're pretty. There are some spots because of the way the metal was with all the different layers where the paint didn't get into everywhere, but I only put 2 coats on, and I'm still happy with it. So, you know, just as long as you are happy with the results, that's all that really matters. I haven't made a lot of progress today because all these bags here, I've been cleaning all these bolts, which were really rusty, and then even the ones that I got off the other car at the junkyard, some of them were kind of rusty, so I cleaned up those ones too. But all in all, I probably wire wheeled, I don't know, about 80 bolts, so it took a while. Okay, so I got this heat shield in, and it is working beautifully, the little trick. I coated everything with the nickel anti-seize there, and up here on these bolts too. And another reason that I use the nickel anti-seize is because nickel anti-seize is really good for when you have dissimilar metals. You can get what's called galvanic corrosion, which is what I actually got here. That's why there was that big hole. And on one of these other two, believe it was this one here, it was starting to do the same thing. The hole was smaller than the washer, but it was working its way towards it. So fortunately now it's coated. So hopefully no more rust on those guys. Or not rust, sorry, corrosion. Technically rust would be iron, so it's not rust, it's corrosion. So I got them out, and as you can see by my tools here, it is not right either. The one that I sent back and this one are completely identical, and even with these 2 on the side tightened all the way down, both of those still need to be ground down so that the bolts can fit into the holes. So I got these little sets from Harbor Freight. They're like a little diamond bit rotary tool. The grinding stone I had was doing nothing, so I went and got these, and it is actually working. This one I've gotten a little ways down, but my battery died on me, so I'm gonna have to come back to that. I did get the lower subframe going. I put the lower control arms in. When I did these, I greased the heck out of the bushings in here and over there. There wasn't much to grease on that one, but on this one here, under there, I greased everywhere on there. There's even the little slots on the sides. I greased down in there. There's not a spot on that bushing. It's rubber that's not coated. And then I did anti-seize on the bolts, on both the lower control arms and the rack and pinion. The lower control arms, I have not torqued yet. I just got them snug, because when you do the suspension, you have to get everything snug and then put the car down, bounce the suspension a little bit, and then torque everything. On the rack and pinion, the mounting bolts, these are my new bolts. Strangely enough, I could not find a torque specification for them. I scoured through the service manual, I even searched online, and nowhere could I find a torque spec. So the way that I got my torque spec here was I looked up the strength of the bolts and the nuts. In this case, it's a 10.9 bolt, so I think it'd be considered a 10, well, either 10 or 11. I'm not sure what they classify that as, but in any case, the nut on it is a 6. So I basically took the torque for the bolt and nut as if they were a 6, which came out to 53. And since I was using the anti-seize on it, you have to give a 30% reduction in torque, because it's easier to get the same clamping force. So you don't want to torque it as tight, or you're going to either overstretch the bolts or even break them. So I did put anti-seize on there, and the 70% torque of that, that's the easiest way, is just multiply your torque times 0.7, and that'll give you 37 in this case, which is what I torqued those to. So I'm going to go ahead and grind down this transmission mount. I'm going to mount the engine mount on there and the rack and pinion. But I think before I do the mount and the rack, well, at least the rack and pinion, the mount I think I'll put on, because that way I can get to the bolts underneath. But for the, the sway bar, for the sway bar, which is what I meant to say, I'm going to put that on after I get this up onto the transmission jack, because already this is getting pretty heavy, and I don't want to hurt myself. So I'll do that stuff, and I'll get back to you. So one thing I forgot to mention, because I had the issue with the rust on these, I did go ahead and put anti-seize inside the sleeves of the bushings too. But I did wait until I had them in, so that so that I didn't mix the two greases, the silicone and the anti-seize. I'm sure they're pretty close to each other, but I don't think they're going to mix or anything. So, okay, I did make a little progress here. I found the torque specs that I was looking for. I had to scour through the service manual again, and I did find them. So when I give them to you, make sure you write them down. I got the hubs in there. I did use anti-seize on both of those. Some people might not agree with doing that. I did. I'm going to keep an eye on everything and make sure nothing loose starts backing out. But you do the 30% reduction for torque on those if you're going to do it that way. For the backing plate, the torque is a lot. It's 103. So even with my torque reduction, it was still like 71. And even in the little vise that I had, I could not get enough torque to, I couldn't get enough turning force to torque it all the way. So I torqued it as best I could, and when I have it in the car, then I'll torque it the rest of the way. But the bolts on the hub bearing assembly, those 4 bolts there in the center, the torque is 41. So I went about 30. And on those, I used anti-seize on the bolts, but I also used anti-seize around the mating surface. I just put it on the actual hub itself. I put it on the part that goes around that meets up on the outside with the knuckle, and on the face, the back face, I guess you would say, where it mounts up against, so that none of that's got direct contact there. And the other torque spec that I did find was for these guys. Now, because I got new bolts, mine's okay, because that's the strength of these particular bolts. But for the original bolts, the torque spec is actually 36 foot-pounds. I got 53 for the bolts, and did 30% reduction, which got me like 37. So I'm right there pretty much too. But if you have the original bolts, 36 is the torque, and it does say to make sure you tighten the bolt while holding the nut steady, because the nut has like a stopper on it. One more thing on this here, when you're tightening this down, you're basically pressing it into the knuckle. So when you tighten these bolts, make sure you tighten them in like a crisscross pattern, and very little at a time and equally across. So you know, a couple turns on one, then a couple turns on the one on the opposite side, and you know, crisscross. But that way you'll get it in there even, and you won't end up damaging the bearing. But also over here, I did get the power steering high pressure line in. It was a little bit difficult just working up inside here. Let's see if I can get a better shot. There's where it comes in, the silver ring there. The hose goes up above and then comes back down to it. The manual tells you to hold that union at the bottom there while you turn the top, but that little bar coming down from the fitting there, it's right in the way, so you can't get a wrench on there. So I just kept an eye on it while I was tightening it. But basically this one, don't use anti-seize on this one because you don't want to end up contaminating your power steering. But that one is at 37 foot-pounds, and then there's also a bracket right up above it, actually, there, that little bracket there. That one is 69 inch-pounds. I did put anti-seize on that one, so I did like 48. But I think the next thing I'm going to do is I think I'm pretty close to putting the subframe up.